maybe our last one for the year, last live stream. We're going to do a part two of how we have been framing up this project for this internal dashboard. So I'm going to leave it on here. We may bring some team members on. Let me bring the share there. Um, and last week we just opened up. You can go watch the first part if you're interested in this. But we just started with a totally blank canvas. We mentioned that we had a team retreat here in Franklin, and we did a whole kind of mock-up of ideas of different things that would help our team be a little bit more efficient. So it happened by just putting the ideas, doing some brainstorming. Everybody kind of wrote down stickies, and then we just each person presented their ideas. Then we captured all those ideas and we kind of organized them in some stickies here, just to kind of see the ideas. Doesn't mean that every single sticky now has to go into a backlog or any of that. It just was like, hey, generally there's this sense that we need this one view. So one of the things that arose was this idea to have a new view that gives team members and clients and admin clarity on billing and schedule. So I think this is very much a similar view with like different filters on it potentially. And so last week we kind of framed up some context here. I won't going to read all of this since you can go back and watch how we got to this point in the other video. Um, and we've kind of talked through the problem here and then kind of what we want the outcome. So I'll just kind of focus on the outcome here is we want to be able to move budget around and have just visibility on what's expected on basically for schedule and billing for a client. We have this view, which I took a little screenshot down here for quick reference, where we will take a client and then we will have, each column has kind of like the month and then what projects are happening in the month and then what weeks each size project is and what's the status, what's the payment status. There's a lot of information here, and Notion doesn't really give us a nice way to display this. Is pretty limited as far as how this works, and it can still be a little bit overwhelming to clients because we're still talking in weeks where maybe they want to see dollar amounts or maybe they want to see, we kind of totaled up here that there's 5 weeks for that month. So anyway, this is just the kind of the limitations here. And one of the big things that we sort of framed up in a part two here, and I may take this, and we're just gonna just like you would in you know Git in a Git repository, we're gonna fork this, and I'm just gonna draw a little line, and this will be our official. This will be December 23 session. So we're just gonna kind of keep we're not gonna delete that. We're gonna keep it open there. But one of the big problems that we identified more than anything as we got into a second session was this idea of there's really since we're using Notion. So one of the top things here that's relevant. There's a bunch of. I'm just going to put the most important stuff at the top. But most important thing is um, we heavily like rely on Notion for all like projects and tasks, um, and I'll say task management. Um, And so because of that, one of the problems that rises, like we have very limited control over what users can see, let's say like what projects, and what access they have, essentially what um, we'll say maybe capabilities. I don't know. Okay, uh, these they have to modify. So like if we share, one of the problems right now is we have one massive database called projects, and they're all organized with filters by client. And so in order to share a list of projects with a client, we actually have to share the entire projects database with a client. So technically they have access to every single project. If we wanted them in Notion to see this kind of recreation of this view down here, they'd have to have every single they could basically go to any single project of any kind, and we can put them in a read only mode, but then they can only read their own stuff. They can't interact and stuff. So it's not ideal. So what we thought would be sort of this view idea was really the most important thing here, is that we just wanted a way for them to view the same data, same thing that's in Notion, just view it in a different way, but it gives us control over knowing that this is a client or this is a team member that's looking at it. This is maybe an admin that's looking at it, and we can hide and show different things on the screen. So that created a lot of clarity. How we got there, and we did a session between last Tuesday and this session. So this is actually technically our third session. Um, and I'll just show you guys this. We we started doing a breadboard, but then we sort of zoomed out a little bit and we said, okay, how does this work? We had this idea of like clients doing a multi-month retainer. So they agree like, hey, we want to do 3 weeks per month at this rate. So they'll have an idea, they'll give it to us, we'll frame and shape it. Um, they confirm that we're using the weeks, and then we on the first of the month they purchase those weeks. We do work, review, kind of go back and forth as they give feedback, and then once we finish it, we like release funds to the team for that. So that's kind of our little that's sort of how it is to now. And we even thought of like how we could clean this up a little bit. So we sort of zoomed out quite a bit because um, we also didn't want to start building software for something that is actually um, a a process problem. So this also happens as well because we are also I'm the client in this case, and our team it really is the client in this case. We're doing it for ourselves. Um, we have the control of also fixing the process, and so this can be a little bit of a painful problem when you're working with other clients. Is they need to be open to also sometimes the process itself is not good, and you can't really fix a bad process with software. So if you have a pretty good process and you just want to remove some of the friction, that's a good time to like bring software into the mix. And so what we did here is we just made sure that our process was simple enough, and so we did come up with kind of a nicer idea where clients would have an idea, they could frame and shape it. We'll propose it to them, and this could doesn't have to happen on the like it happen anytime during the month. They can confirm it. We do the work, we review it, and we thought of having some like master approve button where we actually mark the work as completed, at least in Notion, and then would kind of releasing that whole project would be done. So we just this isn't really super relevant to this, but it does help us give context of actually just looking at it because until we got into this, we had never even put these blocks on a board at all. These are just something that was in my head. Maybe it was in Luchen's head, maybe it was in Macy's, but it wasn't clear. And so by me having to draw it and everybody seeing it, it kind of helped us move the things around and said, okay, we kind of have it working this way. We probably should simplify it a little bit to do it this way. And then we actually got into some of the breadboarding stuff here where we said, well, we started looking at even like how does the shaping take place? Like we meet with the client, we book the shaping calls. We do actually like this is sort of the initial like, hey, we want a project that does this and this. Then we get into a 90-minute shaping session um, where we look at, kind of all these different pieces that we're sort of doing with you guys now, frame it, we give an appetite. We typically do a second shaping session, if it's internal or with the client. And then we actually ask them to approve it, and then we sort of book it, and off we go with that. So that's sort of the process how a new project comes in the door. And so this is important because this is what's happening sort of at this phase. And we needed a screen where all this could take place. So this is sort of what's happening on the process side. And maybe we'll just add some definitions here since that wasn't very clear. Um, so then we said maybe we would have, um, let's see here, future. This is some of the future. So we started mapping out. Did I do a client one? Yeah, I think this was the. This actually should say client. I think. Sorry. Um, so we said you would have some sort of navigation. You would look at the dashboard. Um, we could kind of see like a chart of like weeks and stuff, and then we would have these totals and something to show like um, the different weeks. So so we kind of got this far into it. We even try to like map out. Just this would be sort of like our fat marker sketch. It's not a UI. It's not even really a wireframe. It was just trying to like I had an idea down here, and so I scribbled it out really quick with some of the text just to kind of illustrate what it is. It's kind of another version of what we had here, and we also looked at like just these little diagrams here to show like, hey, what was actually happening? Like we had clients paying on the first. Sometimes projects ran into December, and then we'd have to like approve and wrap it up in December, but they actually paid for it in November. So this is just very complicated, and so we wanted to figure out how we could simplify it. So anyway, these are just some of our scribbles, and I just put this line. We can reference it if we need to. There's nothing in here that's going to be like officially published anywhere in our SOPs or anything like that. It's just us getting our like what's in our brain down on paper so we can talk about it. Um, and then one thing we like to do, just and again in a process, is we like to think of the hill chart here, and we have some sort of like magic moment here where we want to get to clarity. And what's happening down in here is we have things like we're doing the framing stuff. We're doing this breadboarding, which we haven't really even got into the breadboarding specifically. We also do some quick prototyping is happening here, um, and uh, all of this is happening before we've kind of hit this middle part. So that's why we spent now this will be our third hour going through this with so from a time standpoint, we're probably like 20-30% of our hours for this project have been used up um, so far, and that's okay. Like we're happy to spend up to like half of the hours just on this first half because once we get this really crispy point of like where it's super concrete and we know exactly what we got to go do, then we just map out the steps and we just go execute. And we use AI, of course, down this side to do a lot of like we'll call it uh, agentic coding, and uh, we test it and we get the clients. But typically, what happens is we people jump too soon into the coding, and so it's not crispy yet. It's not ironed out. Luchin and Macy were very patient because as soon as this is one of the first projects we're doing, so we're trying to get a lot of clarity on a lot of things. So it really forced us to whittle down what we're not doing in this project. And so let me come over here. So one of the things I did was a prototype. So we actually went over to our dashboard. We have our website, and what's cool about our little Next.js website, we have a way to actually sign in. So we don't have like a separate app. It's just one single app that's our website, and then you can flip over to a dashboard. And so then there's a client role, there's a team member role, and there's a admin role. And so I right now I've just broken them up by like team, client, and admin here. And so if I go to the client dashboard, I went ahead and just prototyped this out. And I when I say prototype quickly, like this took me um, an hour, maybe 2 hours. It was not a lot of time. And I only did this maybe after we had gotten some of the clarity here. So I did a quick prototype, kind of knowing that we may throw this away. And the one thing I wanted to figure out was I didn't really get this idea of like the control piece because what we wanted to do is we wanted clients to be able to come in here and pick up a card and drop it, let's say, into a different phase, or they mark something as completed. We wanted for them to quickly see a much prettier UI. Like they could see the budget from this standpoint. They can see that they're on schedule. So on schedule, on budget, little green, and we can see the total weeks here, and we can see that we have 5 weeks in progress. And maybe they can switch it from like a status view to like a month view if they wanted. And so that's possible too. And so this is kind of like where we got to. And the other thing we typically do a lot is we have this inbox status where just a ton of stuff, like there's 12 weeks worth of things in here. And we don't like to show it because it normally clutters it up. And then of course we have this completed, which is everything we've ever completed for this client. So there's just a lot in here too. So what we thought would be nice, and I kind of stole some inspiration, we'll say, from the Fizzy app. So this is, they have this column that kind of opens and closes. So a really cool UI, and we just borrowed that concept for this. And same thing on completed. We can pop it open, check stuff, and pull it closed again. And so that way things are a little bit more clear. And of course, we could click into this and maybe go to a detail page. We already have some pages in here that show you details about the project. Um, and from here, we can, of course, go into Notion and jump deep into this project of how we're actually tracking it and stuff. So again, this is just a quick prototype of this. And what we did was I just got it started, and then I showed Luchin and how it works in our team. And if you're working on our team, this is how it will go. Um, but we have a single Notion project with all the information. And you can link to things like the breadboard, and you can link to the task grid. And then we've got things like comments here. So all that happened was we met last Tuesday. Um, I think it was maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Macy and Luchin and I had a few like clarity bullet points here, and then the next day I just went in and by myself I just built a little prototype, and it doesn't even look that pretty when I made the video. And we made a quick preview, and then Luchin and I went back and forth, and we started to get some clarity. So I just wanted to show you that there's a lot of asynchronous conversation happening here. And this is something I think Lucian and I have been working together probably the longest of anyone on the team, and we're kind of starting to get to the point where we can have good uh, like transfer of knowledge and thought back and forth without having to be on a like talking face to face. I love hanging out face to face or in person, but this is great because I could put my thoughts, and when he had a moment, he would be able to watch the video, look through the where I was, and then give his thoughts that um, he was having. So this is good. So this is sort of the real. Just wanted to show you guys what it's like, how we work, on a real project, because we've did a bit of coding to get it to this point, but I also just prototyped it in a way that I could delete this whole module, because we haven't really nailed anything down. I just wanted to see how hard is it to actually build this and get kind of a UI together to where, and it was me building the UI that I realized, oh, I get to have full control over what the client's seeing, and that's actually what we've been missing, was this sort of controlled view where they don't have to be invited to Notion, they don't have to be invited to a bunch of weird database like task databases and project databases, and that's invited to our whole client database. Um, I could just make this one view that's reading the API. And we were able to do a simple little test here where if I drag it and drop this into shaping, and I open this up here in Notion, you can see it's just shifted to shaping. If I come back, of course, here, and I move it back to in progress, and it immediately like jumps to in progress in Notion. So little prototype and a little proof of concept to show that like it actually could feel very much in sync with what our team's seeing in Notion, but it's like a much cleaner view of it, and that's where we got a lot of clarity. So that was a very long update. I don't know, Lucian, if you want to share some thoughts on this or where we got to so far, and then we'll dive into some specifics of what to decide next.
Yeah, you pretty much covered the main points. I would just add that like framing, it's like you can never be like too clear on the framing. So like even we did the prototype and we came back like, this clarifies the framing, and that was probably where the biggest like gold happened.
Yeah, I agree. And we may come back here, and it's not so much maybe about the budget anymore. I would actually say it's we can put that in the not doing, but we just really want like a single like view for clients, to see all like projects, their status, maybe their like their schedule, and total appetite or something like that. Just like a high level overview for the client, and something that honestly, like this could be pretty enough where I could screenshot this and drop it in Slack. Like I could just screenshot this, drop it in Slack. They can glance at it and be like, okay, so we went over here. These are on the schedule though. Great, all good. Um, and we may have like a few in review. And one of the things we really want to that we identified here, and when we breadboarded it, was when we go into review, we need the clients to really be involved with getting things out of review and into the completed status, because things can sit, as you guys all know on the team, things sit in review for a while, and sometimes we had stuff that wasn't even closed. And another thing that we ran into, I think it was over here, and if I went into Notion, we actually just built this one board, which we hadn't been using for a while, but this was every project organized by status, across all clients. And so we actually quickly found stuff that was in review that was maybe like 6 months old when we did this. And and it was kind of, it just, you took the, and we didn't even build anything, we didn't write any code. We just, once we got the clarity of like, oh, there's this view that's kind of missing, we're like, oh, we can actually make that view in Notion in 5 minutes. And so we were able to quickly create that, and kind of got pretty similar there. You can see the status of the hours, you can see the billing. It doesn't quite show you the date if we're on schedule or not, but it's a good part there. I don't know, Greg, if you were wanting to add something, you popped on. Okay, you're good.
I wanted to add
So
something about like, you said that software doesn't fix like a bad process. Like going through this, we also got the clarity of like the in review, it's like it was a bit fuzzy, like what is in review? Is it like kind of code review by a peer, or and we figure it's better that like we are all like done and like shipped, and like the client is looking at it. That's what's in review. Like until like you're done, you're giving it in the hands of the client to say like, is this good enough? Like, are we done with this? Then it's still in progress up to that point.
Yeah, definitely. And I think so I think what we were and it's so simple. Like once you draw it out and we kind of like, oh yeah, these different spots. There's kind of two things where like people have to take action has to take place where we need the clients to actually come in here and approve it. And that's actually a pretty big blocker for Macy um, uh, and me when we're making sure like was this actually approved? Because there's sometimes we get a verbal yes, sometimes it's a reply in an email, sometimes we get an emoji on a Slack thread. Like it's pretty, it's not very concrete for the clients to do that. So we came up with this process, which again is maybe part of more of like we would call like the monster project, which is maybe a few projects strung together. But we talked, this came out in the team discussion, and I'm not going to specific stickies here. I just remember it came up so many times with the team that it's just top of mind, right? So I didn't even have to really think about it. Um, it just came up a lot when we were talking about it. But maybe having something where we send something to a client and it says, "Hey, like there's a yes, I approve this," or like, "No, I want other changes," and they hit yes, and it's kind of like their signature on the project to say we've now approved this, and then everything else, just the work can begin and we can kick it off. And then the same thing happens at the other end, kind of like these two bookends of the project, because it was a little bit vague. It wasn't super clear. And since we deal in the currency of like clarity and crispiness on all our projects, like we should definitely have a process that's just super clear for clients and the team to know exactly, when things are ready to be worked on and so forth. So um, so that was good because yeah, we didn't have a good, and this all came because we had this column called in review that wasn't, we didn't know what it was for. But when we said, oh, the clients need to move it out of, they're the only ones that can move it out of in review to complete it. I think I don't know if we said that somewhere, but I remember there was this like clarity moment where like, oh, we're not allowed to move it out of in review. Like unless we're on a call with a client and they say yes, then we'll move it together, and then we'll still leave a comment and be like, such and such client approved this. That's how we should get things out of in review. And then it also creates like a nice hard stop, and we don't have this tail because a lot of times things can sit in review, and then 2 weeks later a bug pops up and we kind of reopen the whole thing, and it's sort of never ending. So anyway, that was just yeah, how we got some clarity there. But I think this is getting more simple. I don't know if we want to just quickly clean this up. If you have any thoughts, Luchin or Ira, anyone want to jump in as well?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
getting, maybe it's in the details a bit, but I got really nice like clarity here about the process. You know, where I was saying about like in review should be just when the client is looking at. There's like a process thing that is like not clear when it's done. What we can could do is like have a, just like Notion automation that you have to like create what do we call um we saw this like Ryan video. He's doing like case study, and like they have a deliverable thing, like a document that like shows like, oh, this is how you use the new feature, and like just like kind of the summary of like what was built, or like a video demo or something like that, like a deliverable. And you have to like have that to create like an in review, to change status to in review. So that could be like a good, process, and it would be like pretty simple to just like do some software that enforces this.
yeah, that's great. Um, so one thing I'll leave here is like the views we like to create are technically impossible in Notion. I think is one you said there. It's kind of similar to this one. I could probably clear these up. Um, so I think this one's very much, and what I'm so in the shape up, they have a great little diagram which I don't have time to like find, but we have this like random blob of a project, and so we've kind of started to carve out like sections of what and they call these kind of the vertical slices. So one of these things is the actual client view here, um, and the other one may be like a team member view. The other one may be like security. So what we're really going to focus on is we can actually get this all solved for the client and publish it and start using it as a company, and then go back and like solve a different problem, which is like, how do the team members see this? So how do the admins see this? Because we can, this could turn into like a 2 week project versus it being maybe a 6 week project. So because I'm always like I'm very much in the mode of like get something small that's really, really useful, ship it and let us start using it. And then we'll go and figure out the next thing. Like, so I would say anything that's um, not related to the client piece, I would almost take those things out initially, just because then we're at least we're all looking at this client view and the clients can see what's going on. Because I guarantee it, we look at this a board like this every single day. We maybe pull it up with clients, but they're not looking at this and they're not looking at it the same way. Like this means a lot to us. Probably doesn't mean a lot to clients because they're just not using it every single day. And so it looks kind of unfamiliar and it looks confusing. So we want to just simplify that. Um, so what's nice about having the blocks like here, while you guys were talking, I just dragged a couple of these things to the not doing. So it's very clear. Not only am I deleting it, but I'm specifically saying nothing to do with, clients. um, so is there anything else we want to tweak on this? Anyone on the problem or outcome? And then we'll move on.
Not doing project changes, like that last item in the outcome.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take this out.
I mean, this project could just be like client view, and then we have like a shipped an actual thing, and then we could look at the next thing.
Yeah, and part of this is like more on the process side. And projects will require admins to and this may be good because maybe this like approval process is actually part of it, is because we don't because we said this is where they can see stuff, but I think maybe there's also like now that we kind of sliced it differently, we sliced it to like team to the clients only. We could say like a like tool or just like we'll say a way for clients to approve projects before work. And I don't know if it's approved. What did we said? We came up with a really good word for it. Approved. And then like
approve and fund.
Yeah, something like that. Well, see, even if you say fund, now it's like, does that mean we have to have like this hooked into Stripe? Does it mean like it just opens up like approve projects before work and I don't know, move to completed after interview. This is not written well, but maybe it's a little wordy, but I'd rather be so maybe there's a way for them to approve it in this phase, because this could be a button. So many times these like this whole outcome, I think I drew it somewhere over here. It could literally just be a button that says like they hit approve, it pops up, it says like, are you sure? You hit yes, and then it's like approved. Because we couldn't really, there's not like a great mechanism to do this in Notion. Yes, you could make like a checkbox that says client approved, yes or no, and they could check it, but like then anyone else can uncheck it. So it's just kind of, it's not a very like definite thing where we could have a button when they push this, it like updates the status to dev ready. It makes a comment in the Notion project that says such and such user approved on this date for this thing at 2 weeks, and we has kind of that log in the comments on the Notion. So that could just be a button. So I think that's very much in scope. It's probably 2 hours of work to add that, and that could be kind of get us this outcome we're looking for. And then maybe it's the same thing once the project is. So we already have like a kind of, we're confusing it even. I'm even confused because we have these 2 points of like, maybe it's confirm and approve. Maybe those are the 2.
Yeah, you just have to watch out, like, because it opens the edge case that they approve, but they didn't pay, and then the dev gets like the dev ready status. So
sure,
we might want to nail that down better.
So that's good because you brought that up, and then I immediately want to like swat that away. So let's just like, that's good because there seems like there's something vague there. So we'll say like no like we'll say like payment processing included in project. We'll just be like admins will keep close watch. We don't have 100 projects happening in a week
because we're tracking. It's like you track like payments in Notion, like away from view. It could be like that. Just if it's linked to a payment and it was approved, then it's okay. So just like
I
more
think it's
conditions.
fine if they approved it here and they hit the button and it was like it felt a little more formal. We don't even do that now, and then we have to deal with the movement of money afterwards. That's probably fine. If they hit yes and they approved it, like, and we basically have like a log where they were like, no, you requested this work on this date. Like, we're never going to get into issue where like we could even do the work even if they haven't paid. We still have the log of them formally approving the work to be done. Like but yes, I think down the road it'd be super cool if it just like pulls a Stripe transaction, like it's one little movement, 100%. But let's just for the sake of getting this one launched, because it runs into other problems where like not all clients pay us through Stripe, for example. And maybe it needs to generate like a Mercury wire request versus like Stripe. So yes, maybe that's another project. But I'll just say no, don't worry about the processing right now. So this, yeah, current future projects, knowing which projects are paid for, that's fine. And then I don't even have to worry about this. Yeah, I think this is fine. Like, this probably feels small enough now. And then I think the appetite's pretty simple. I would probably put like, 2 weeks on this, which for us would be 50 hours roughly in normal language. I think that's definitely doable. It's probably a 1 week project, honestly, but part of the outcome of this is us also doing it together as a team. So we probably are doubling up the time just talking about it with all of us on the call. We're probably way over our budget with 9 of us on the on this call. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add? And then I think we're good. We'll take 10 minutes and kind of, I don't know, breadboard a few things. But anything else you guys want to add here?
I'm good.
For you guys, Ira, Janata, Luchin, you guys are typically in with clients. Like, this is what I'm seeing from my standpoint, which may be a little bit different than yours. Are these problems that you think the clients have or that you have at times? Does this add any benefit for you to see a view like this? I mean, we're in Notion, so it's not probably very useful, but we also didn't want to assume that everybody was using a view like, I think we actually came up with like a My Dashboard team dashboard. Yeah. We did create this little like sample dashboard so you could click on what all the team was doing, my projects, what's in review, so forth. Because the one thing I love about Notion is it's highly customizable, and I also hate that about Notion because I can have one view that looks amazing for Bruce, and Luchin could have his own view that looks amazing for Luchin, and then like Ira and Janata don't use that or see it because they, you have to sit there and make it yourself. Like, you have to build your own view of this stuff. So I don't know if this is helpful.
Yeah, I think like I'm using something similar, but I think the most important part of like having this, I think we really nailed down the part of like what really matters is to have this view accessible for the customer, because Notion is like really good to use and stuff and it's very flexible, but incredibly like the sharing system, it's strange, and like and if you send to a customer, they have to like be logged in, and not everyone uses Notion, so it creates a lot of friction with the customer. So for instance, like with Hextech, they are a customer that we are running for a long time, and they don't use Notion a lot. So I think if you have something that we can use as a basis to like have the customers to look to help customers to create the habit of like using this as the main point of reference, I think this is the key values for especially for these long term running projects, where you can like have plan like 1, 2, or 3 months ahead, but we need to like to have this common view where everyone can look and see, hey, this is where we are going. We agreed that we are going to this direction, and we agreed at this point in time. So I think my main the main use for me for this specific view is to improve client communication, like is to have a source of truth where we can always point customers back to, and we don't have to rely on them like using Notion or like having to know how to use Notion, because we can like make it as easy or as complicated as you want, because we are like creating from scratch. So I think it can easily like sometimes, if you think like it could like sound like an overkill, but if you use Notion and if you shared stuff with it, you know that that's not an overkill. Like especially if the other end is not accustomed with Notion, that like doesn't have the practice and doesn't use it a lot, it can create a lot of friction. And like for instance, every month we need to share the new database with, or like we need to review the share the access to Chase if they're seeing the reactive stuff or not. I mean, like this kind of creates unnecessary friction and breaks like the possibility of creating a habit around it. So yeah, I think, sorry, really long rambling around it, but I think it's uh, I think it's my way of seeing it. It's like having the source of truth and easy access for the customer.
Okay, it's good. So I'll just I think we're in a good spot. So I would I started doing this last time. Let me just grab this. So we're gonna kind of have like maybe two components. Um, I think the spice status is helpful because they can quickly see like everything moving to the right. But normally from a billing standpoint, we do need it rearranged to the month view, which is kind of more like this, where it's got columns for each month. Um,
It might even be better to have like timeline view because it's not always like a clean overlap.
hmm. Yeah, so maybe it's, I'll just say, yeah, let's just
Yeah, that's good.
um, maybe by I'm gonna give it a ugly name by like work dates, or by maybe it's a project calendar or something. It could be a Kanban, or I don't really care what it is. We'll figure that out.
And I want to
Um,
piggyback off of what Janata said. You asked about like what like pain points, and because now we have like the monster projects and like kind of showing them the sequence of upcoming work and like reshuffling that is like this project has like huge potential to help the communications on that side.
sure. So I just want to. So this I think is clear. The Kanban stuff like makes sense for me here. Um, since we already didn't have like a immediate clarity on is it Kanban or is it timeline. I'm just going to put projects by dates, and then we'll figure this out later. Um, and we could have like uh, for the month would be helpful. We also want to see like the and then what I would say is actually have like a component here called the project card, and this would have like the title. You guys rip through what we got, like total, or we'll say actual hours versus total hours, so something like that. We could also have
I might contest this because on the client side, they don't even necessarily need to know. It's more like an internal metric. Like, were we clear enough on this project? If we weren't, then we'd end up spending more time than we should have. And on their side, they just know that they paid this much and like the dates that we like wanted to complete it by. It's not even necessarily relevant to them, like how many hours we spent on it.
I think yes, but also it does, so because this is actually the total appetite, because it does show movement. It's just that we don't like stop billing clearly on the like this guy, like 38 hours out of. So I love showing this to clients because I paid for 30, or like they only paid for a week, but they got like 150% more, like 50% more than what they want. That's on us to fix, not on them. And there was a bunch of like research and stuff happening on this, so we know why that was there, because there's another bigger project coming. But this is nice because it does kind of show you progress. Like if this is it just because we want to make full transparency. So I think this is just a like like a way to add clarity to the like, or just shows them that work's being done, because it's hard to know because they're not, most of the clients are not technical. They just know like, oh, hours have been invested, which is maybe pretty yeah, I don't know.
And this at the risk of throwing like a monkey wrench into this, which I love doing. But you know, process like question or, you know, blurriness is because on this like project that's going way over scalability upgrade, a bunch of that time was spent shaping the next project. And that's kind of like when we shape a project, should we be billing on that project which hasn't been paid yet? So there's a bit of like, you know, circular.
Yeah, that's true. I think those are more like definitely process things, and once we have the clarity for it as well, I think there's also in our process, there's probably like a little post project debrief for, even if it's just a few comments back and forth, but just to look at these numbers. And if we get this project card that feels very clear that anyone can look at this and kind of see what happened, it's like, oh, there's something to talk about that. Like, okay, it went over. Did we just forget to change the dates? Did, you know, do we massively underestimate this? This is a very unique project, and I'm not worried about it, but it'd be good to like just talk that through to see, you know, did it actually need, and there's maybe other projects, which are probably, actually, where is the, did we just finish the, where's the attachments one? See, this isn't even.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe it's a bug in your prototype because I'm pretty sure it's in review.
It's in review. Is it in?
It doesn't have the right client, maybe.
Mm.
I'm checking it out.
Okay.
I'll wait
It
till
has
you're
two
done.
clients. That's why.
Just delete this one. Yeah, and it's in review, so it should be showing up. That's it. So yeah, maybe it's in the tribe one then. Yeah, go ahead, Ira.
Yeah, so I think it's since this is for the our clients, I think it's important to see like the if we're going beyond like the agreed upon time frame. But in terms of the progress bar, I feel like it would be better to have the progress maybe in terms of so one thing I always use, I use the monster map or like the verticals.
Right.
For like, yeah, so I did like, okay, these are the points, and maybe that time bar is like there's a chunk for each of these verticals, and so they can like click it and see, okay, well, you're working on you've completed these two verticals and like that. I think that my concern with like letting it be based on time is I try to, when I can, I try to like implement it as quickly as I can, you know. And I don't want to be in a situation where, because I'm trying to like do clever things and like get it done faster, that it's like, oh well, you can actually work faster, so for your next project we'll,
yeah,
you know.
So, yeah, I think it's either
And
way.
then also they always see a full they'll always see like a full 100% like thing, because as I'm like tackling the verticals,
Okay.
that bar will always hit 100%, where if it's based on time, it could
like,
potentially not hit 100%.
It's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So. You guys happy?
Yeah.
So conditional, if that's there. If not, we just want to see. We still want to see the appetite. Like we still need them to see that this is what's the appetite maybe somewhere, because this would tell you that it's 2 weeks, and so that, and it's really the first 12 hours. So we can do that for now. We can have that little conditional. I'm okay with that for now, because this is exactly what we can't do in Notion. So this is one like line of code wrapping that one little component. It's a great example where we could actually super quick to change that. And maybe they do want to see it down the road and we enable it or not. Sorry, I said end team. This is for admin here. We just have two different roles right now. Okay. I think that's Janata's dog.
Oh, sorry.
Starts barking at my dog under my desk is going to start barking at him. That's good. So we kind of breadboard this out. We're going to kind of wrap this up in like 2 minutes because I got to jump to the next thing. But this is just a great example. Is like it kind of felt pretty cool when you guys all looked at this and we're like, this is awesome. Let's ship it. Like we could probably send this to a client today. And then we get into this discussion about this bar, and all of a sudden we're not clear anymore about this bar. So that's good. And I think what we'd do is probably have the same project card if we can. I don't know why we would need a different component. But what's nice about this is we start to see that there's one project card component, and then we can maybe arrange them in 2 different views, whatever those views might be. Maybe it's a timeline, maybe it's a calendar. I suspect it's going to be a little bit of both, because I think the timeline view is pretty nice. We actually looked at this. Do you remember who you built it for, Lucian? Was it Cowboy Mars? Oh yeah, timeline. So we started to do this kind of view. Again, this is a great example where you have to use a bunch of filters to get this to not look insane. And I think it looks better if you look at like quarter because it kind of zooms out a hair.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like limitations. You can't like filter by start date or like by end date or stuff like that.
Yes, it's just all projects right now, and then including completed. So this list is pretty long. And if you hide completed, it's hard to. You kind of want completed, but only completed within the last 90 days or something. You don't want it like from 2 years ago. But anyway, something like this potentially could be good because you can kind of see this timeline. So we'll play with that. I'm not going to worry too much about it. What I did start to do is, well, we use this. We call it the task grid. This is a tool Ryan built, which we really like, which is just this grid of 9 things. And so I'm going to go ahead and like delete this. Can you delete stuff? Oh, you can't. I think you have to. I'll let him know about that. So we're actually not going to do any of these things for this project. And I said by like month here, there's some security stuff right now. We have to make sure that this client, if they signed in, that we know which client they're supposed to be associated with. I can do that. And then I've got this view by status, and maybe I'll make this as like the project card component.
The approve button, like so they have to log in.
Yes.
We can't not let them log in.
Oh, so there's 2. There's confirm process. And so I wouldn't go typically like from in our heads to this, but this is better to know that kind of just to make that clarity. There's a thing here. We need to put some tasks into this bucket. What's not in here is like, yeah, if you're a client, then we would have something like if in the whatever it's like shaping status and client logged in, then we would show some sort of like confirm project button. So, and then we could, this will just go to a whole flow basically of like confirm project. I don't know what's in here, but there's something in here, and I assume there's a big confirm button, right? This can be very quick and smooth, and then that's it. There's nothing really after that. It just kind of loops you back to the view.
Yeah, like leaves a Notion comment.
Yes, and that would be illustrated here with like a little gray thing. Okay. I've got to use these words correctly. Confirmed project on like Y date. There's my cue. So cool. So we'll have something like this happens. I don't know. We'll probably have some other things we want to do in the database. Updates the status, obviously. We'll like update Notion status, etc. So you guys get the idea, but just breaking this into a little piece, we can kind of see what's going to happen in the database. So now I could very, very quickly add like, this needs to send comment to Notion. This needs to like change status in Notion and a few other things. So I can keep going on this, but you guys get the idea. I'll keep wrapping it up later today, and then following our process, I will make a quick video and share like the final breadboard here, and you guys can follow. Anyone on the team here can follow the project here. It's called New, and I'll keep posting, and you guys can see the whole history of the conversations here. So I'll put a new video later today, some links there, but you guys can all comment and weigh in on it if you have thoughts. But I think it's definitely, getting really, really clear of what we're building. And once that's done, we'll obviously go and add like maybe the team member stuff next. But cool. Awesome, guys.
That's
Any
awesome.
other closing thoughts?
They're like 50% shaped, right?
Yeah, we always do. No, this is good because we always at the end of it just be like, where are we at? And it's always like, oh, this is awesome. We're 90%. And if you really think about it, you're like, we're probably like 60. Lucian says 50. I'd say 60 because we're just used to like, this feels so much more clear than maybe other projects we've done. But we have every time we get something really, really clear and we were like, oh, this is the 80, 90. Now we're like, okay, that's actually what 80, 90%, 100% feels like. There's just this like, we've kind of ruled out all the edge cases. We've answered all the questions. Now Ryan says you get to this point where you're like, okay, could you just like stop talking about it? Just let me go build it. Like I'm ready to go build it. Let me start coding. I know exactly what to go do. And then you kind of know you've hit it. And we're close. I think we're close to that. So awesome, guys. Well, hope everybody has a good Christmas and New Year's. I think we'll probably skip next week, and but we'll catch up with you guys soon. Let me